Welcome to another episode of the Conversations for Financial Professionals podcast, where we are shaping the next generation of financial advice. Today, we have Gary Clement. You are the president of Clement Asset Management, a financial planning and investment management firm. Your lead instructor at Kaplan, certified financial planning program. You're an adjunct professor at the College for Financial Planning, assistant professor at University of Alabama. I mean, you're super duper credentialed in the financial services field, holding several designations. But I'm happy to not only call you a colleague, but also a friend. Welcome to the podcast, Gary.
Thanks, Dominique. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, man, it's been great. It's been great to have our relationship over the months. We kind of met early, I guess 2020 or something like that. Talk about that for a second, because I would imagine you talk to just as many, probably way more people that attempt this exam and don't pass on the first try. What have been, let's call it the maybe top two or top three reasons behind that? Is it, I would imagine what you just said has to be very high on that list.
That's one of them, but that's not really the main one, the main
Okay.
two. I'd say if there's two reasons why people don't pass the exam, one is they don't take it seriously enough and they don't put in enough study time. That's the major, major reason. And I think a lot of that, especially for those of us that are in the industry, we might assume this is similar to a FINRA exam. It's not. In fact, this exam doesn't bear much resemblance to a FINRA exam. So that's the first one. Don't put in enough time. Don't put in enough effort. Don't put in the kind of study that it takes to get through this exam. The other thing that I think is a major issue is people taking too long on questions on the exam. And this is a corollary to what we talked about before. You shouldn't take too long going through concepts in the education process. And even when you're studying, you want to begin to build speed. You've got 90 to 120 seconds per question on the exam. And what the exam is hoping that test takers do is take too long on questions so that as the test goes on, they start running short on time. So questions that they could have answered, now they're rushed and hurried. They may misread the question, jump to a conclusion, and answer a question wrong that they could have gotten right because they took too long on other questions. So the bottom line is, as you prepare for the exam, you've got to really develop your internal clock. And when you're bouncing up against 2 minutes and you don't have an answer for a question, you got to mark your lucky answer or your favorite answer,
Yeah.
mark it for review, and go on. So those
You
are
are
the major reasons that people don't pass.
okay. You're hitting on some gold mines of stuff, especially for people I know that are maybe going to sit for the March 2021 exam, which is the next one coming up. I think one thing that I want to kind of bring out or tease out is this notion around not spending enough time, like underestimating the amount of time that you need to spend. Because I think the time component, if you spend enough, will help you with, let's say, the familiarity that you need to have around a particular question. If you're in the test bank and you see something, posed to you like 4 or 5 different ways, when you get on the test, pretty much you're going to be like, oh, I get how this question looks, instead of it being something new. So talk about this time spent, because I remember distinctly a candidate for, I think, sat for the November exam in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, and we were going back and forth on direct message, and it basically got to the question of me asking, well, how much time did you spend? And they were like, well, I spent the time that they told me, and this is not the first time that they failed. And
Mhm.
I wonder if you have a rubric, because if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, the exam booklet that I got gave me a number that I should be shooting for as far as total time to study for this exam.
Yeah.
What are you telling people?
Well, what's in the booklet is 250 hours.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, Dominique. It's gonna take as long as it takes for anybody. I say that that's different for everybody, but you want to think in terms of 300 hours or more. And you want to think in terms of, when you're doing questions, 5,000 questions. And if you can do that, then you stand a good chance on the exam, because you're right. There's only so many ways that questions can be asked about different concepts. So you want to be very cognizant of the different ways they can be asked. You want to be cognizant about the ways that they're going to try to steer you away from the answer. And you only get that by doing question on top of question on top of question.